Hi. I've chosen to speak with you today to honor the vow that I recently renewed with the earth and by extension myself, to speak from love and to use my voice for truth. And when I say love, I follow the definition by Scott M. Peck that I encountered in the timeless Bell Hooks text All About Love, that states that love is the will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth. I also move from the belief that our collective purpose is to be vessels in which love can move through and flourish for the well-being of all. It is currently Earth Month, and by the time that I share this video, we will be approaching, or it will already be Earth Day. And the truth that I need to speak today is that to be advocates, warriors, and lovers of the earth, and to embody another way forward for ourselves and for future generations of life, we must be honest about the ways that systems of domination, which are the imaginations of white supremacy, patriarchy, colonialism, and capitalism, cause and depend upon disharmony and disconnect that is reflected in our relationship with the earth and with other life forms. I'll start with a simple story, one that I've shared before. I began to notice the litter problem in Brampton when I was 14, but I felt unsure and powerless about how to solve such a large issue. It seemed simple to me then. Just take your garbage home, place more public trash bins in high traffic areas, and that's all. However, when I moved back to Brampton 3 years ago, I witnessed the ways in which the litter problem has worsened so quickly, and this guided me to looking at the deeper issues that litter is just a symptom of. When we see trash pile up on our streets, in the parks in which future generations play, in the spaces we go to connect with the natural world, we are witnessing the lack of responsibility to community, the fruits of a wasteful consumerist culture and worldview, and the effects of suburban sprawl. All of these are a manifestation of a disconnected relationship to the earth. I'm recording this video in a place that I lovingly call the Enclave. It's been a sanctuary for me to connect with dear and beloved animals like the red cardinal, the great blue heron, and minks. It is also where I pray, engage in healing ritual, and have remembered how to deeply listen to the earth and by extension myself. I cleaned up the litter from the Enclave many times, but the issue became, and perhaps always was, larger than one individual can solve on their own. Last year, lovely human beings who make up PAL, People Against Litter, and I gathered to pick up over 382 pounds of garbage from the Enclave. This act of community love and service made way for the homes of these animals and plant life to be free of hockey nets, takeout containers, and beer bottles. This is how it looked after we cleaned. This is how it looks today. Someone recently posted this sign outside of the entrance to the Enclave, promoting wildlife removal, where wildlife lives and has lived since the beginning of time. Litter cleanups are a great help, and we need them. However, we must tend to the symptoms alongside the root cause of illness to bring healing and transformation. To get to the root, We must look at and challenge the ways that systems of domination have informed, enforced, and normalized and built dependence on extractive and disconnected worldviews and ways of relating. We must also be courageously honest about how these systems are maintained through our ideas, thoughts, beliefs, actions, and relationships in our individual lives. In Brampton and all over the world, destroying the earth to build unaffordable homes, plazas, warehouses, and unsustainable agricultural farms have become common harmful practice. And in this practice, the homes of countless species of animal, insect, and plant life, which also act as a refuge for humans to build and be in reciprocal relationship to the earth, are threatened, if not completely tarnished, for the sake of money-making. Calls and emails and in-person visits by myself and many other concerned humans have been ignored by the mayor, city councilors, and our MP. And this is not just done with local governments. It happens within all positions of leadership in politics. Government officials have been hosting and attending conferences on sustainability, on how to halt the extremes of the climate crisis for decades, and yet invest or are invested into by the same policies, companies, and ideas that are harming the earth. Our water, our food, our air, our homes, our health, and that which should be given generously as a birthright to future generations. The climate crisis is fueled by many crises, one of which is the crisis of democracy. Important decisions and actions are determined by elected officials who are not grounded in truth-telling, who love money and power more than love, justice, and collective care, who lack integrity and refuse to be accountable to the promises they make to hold these positions of impact. Democracy without accountability can quite quickly turn into fascism in the same way that love without accountability can create the conditions for harm and abuse to thrive. I would say that we should hold politicians accountable to their promises, but we cannot force folks into taking accountability if they refuse to see or change the harm that their actions are causing because they ignorantly believe themselves to be beneficiaries of harm doing. We see this with the Green Belt in Ontario, protected area of land so easily given away to urban sprawl development. Ford and his government are moving ahead with plans to destroy 2,995 hectares of land for suburban sprawl, despite massive public outcry and disapproval during what was clearly performative consultation to make folks believe that we had a say in his plans. This is simply performative democracy processes. And the province says that it chose lands for removal because they are adjacent to existing urban areas. But if we continue with sprawl development, there will be more and more land home to critical plant and animal life and sacred to Indigenous folks, and honestly should be sacred to us all, to develop into property whose purposes can be reduced to profit. They will not stop until there is nothing left. It is a choice made out of the value of material accumulation over the birthright of mutual thriving for all life forms. This is a very clear and singular example that the system is not broken. Rather, it is working by intelligently corrupt design that serves its own purposes. It is no secret today that if things don't change, we risk a world destroyed by greed and dishonesty. This disconnect from the natural way of being with the earth and our plant, animal, and element relatives in harmonious, reciprocal, and life-affirming relationship is a reflection of a larger disconnect from knowing ourselves as a critical and inseparable component of life here on this earth and beyond. The earth is not ours. We do not and cannot own her. And we don't have the right to do the things that have been done. And honestly, why would we want to? Why would we choose to? We belong to her, and we are here because of her grace and generosity expressed through all life forms. The climate crisis and the crises of the times in which we live are also a crisis of spirit and a crisis of what we value. I personally believe that we have forgotten our true nature in this disconnect, and the only way to remedy that completely is to restore and repair our relationship with the earth, our relatives on this earth, and from that place our values and our integrity can be restored. The obsessive lust for material accumulation, endless extraction, and individualistic profit over collective good erodes our spirit and our capacity to feel truly and lovingly connected with others. It is possible and critical for us to replace these values with an ethic of love that honors our inseparable connection to and responsibility for the mutual thriving of all life forms. That is the only way through these crises and to the path to transformation that ripples through time. I don't share this to promote helplessness or worse, victimhood to the ways in which the values and worldviews of white supremacy, colonization, and capitalism have taught us to live, to relate to the world, and the life around and within us, and the circumstances we are living in. It is incredibly important to hold and feel the grief, the anger, the despair, the rage and sadness that comes with acknowledging the harm and disconnect that has become so commonplace and dangerously unspoken and unacknowledged. Feeling through that fully makes room for hope, a revitalization of our will to choose, and from that space, joyous possibilities come through. I share this because I and many other beings have deep hope and knowledge that there is another way that supports the flourishing of all life on earth. There has always been another way modeled by the spirit of plants, animals, insects, elements, and embodied by indigenous folks across the globe and those that remember and listen. There is a timeless system that I believe is waiting on humans to align with it once more, to remember and to insist upon collectively, and to imagine what a connected and a mutually thriving world can look like alongside our relatives. We do not need to be victims to this moment of history. We get to be fierce purveyors of choice and imaginative possibilities that embody our values and responsibility to the earth and one another. The solutions that will move us through and beyond the climate crisis requires that no one gets left behind. And that demands that everyone be willing to participate and hold ourselves lovingly accountable to do what it takes to live a life and build a world free from the ideas, beliefs, limitations, actions, and desires of systems of domination. We all have the capacity to offer something unique and impactful beyond our imaginations. We must create systems of care that are not human-centric. These systems of care must be loving and generous in their approach so that they inform our thoughts, actions, beliefs, and desires and hold space for future generations to reap the fruits of our actions and expand upon them. We are able to do greater work together, and insisting on this dismantles the beliefs and attitudes that systems of domination need to bind us to in order to survive. I leave you with a question. What is your vow to the earth and to the life forms that have nurtured, healed, taught, and supported you and your ancestors since the beginning of time? What are you and what are we willing to sacrifice, to offer, to dream into and build and transform towards in the pursuit of a transformed and liberated world? Thank you for listening to the truth that is spoken through me. I invite you to engage in further deep listening to what the earth is communicating with us, and with you in particular, in this liminal moment of history. Let her be your guide. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings know love, truth, and connection. And may all beings be free. Hi everyone. To add to that, one of the ways that I am imagining and building a world beyond domination is through building food forest gardens in communities that are impacted by food insecurity. And these food forest gardens provide free access to nutritious food, they restore biodiversity in plant and animal life, and they repair holistic community health for our human and beyond human kin. These are centers to be in reparative relationship with ourselves, with each other, and with the earth. And so if you are curious, if you're interested in joining the team, or if you want to connect on what is possible, you can connect with me over email at sowingseedsgardens@gmail.com, or here on my personal Instagram, Sid S. Simpson. Sowing Seeds, which is the name of the food forest gardens, has an Instagram which is not active yet, but the handle is below. I look forward to hearing from you and connecting with you, and once again, thank you for listening. This truth means everything to me, and I hope that it plants a seed in each of you. Take good care.